Satisfactory is one of those games that either you don't care about at all, or it completely sucks you in until you emerge from it several hundred hours later. This year I've definitely been in the latter camp. And with over 280 hours on my main save, I thought it would be nice to leave a small memento for myself, and all of you, to show what I did during that time. From this first view you might assume that this save started out in the Dune Desert, where we are standing right now, but I actually spawned on the plains like most first-time players. Once I unlocked trains, I started using them to explore most of the map, and I eventually decided to build my central logistics hub in this vast open space. I imagined filling the entire desert with factories and then looking out beyond the space elevator at my creations, but well, things often turn out differently than planned. For a while I actually had all my existing factories send their outputs here, so these 4 tracks on the right were put to good use, with the green one on the left reserved for my private train. At this point only a single megafactory is sending stuff to this destination though. There are 2 main buildings here. The first, right above the train station, and indicated here in my native language German, is the main sorting hall. This was my first big use of blueprints. Each freight station feeds into a row of programmable splitters that separate incoming cargo into a total of 8 lanes. I tried to make the lanes have themes like iron-based or copper and motors, but the higher tier items involve so much mixing of different types of components that the reasoning becomes a bit tenuous. The sorting hall did work very well for what it was designed to do though, take in assorted items from factories all over the map and push them over into the next room at very high speeds. The other building over here is what most Satisfactory players end up building at some point, a storage bank with 1 container for each type of item. The setup is as simple as it can get at this point. Each lane is run through a series of smart splitters and the overflow gets drained into awesome sinks on the roof. But obviously this is just the main base. To reach the rest we will use what is definitely my favorite thing in the game. Trains. Since I'm European, I'm required by law to use roundabouts at least once. And I did briefly develop an obsession with them because of how, well, satisfactory it feels to construct a round circle shape out of train tracks. But they did end up causing lots of deadlocks on the busier sections of the network, so I replaced them with something better. More on that later. For now we're heading to one of the branches that provide basic resources to the megafactory. My factories are all named after cities in my home state. This one is called Wismar, and the path there features naturally occurring decontamination showers. So refreshing! This is how all the branch stations look like. Each platform is serviced by 2 trains to ensure continuous throughput, and from here we get lots of iron from platform 1, lots of steel from platform 2, and an assortment of quartz, caterium and concrete from platform 3. I placed this branch here because of the 4 pure iron nodes in the northern forest which satisfy all my plain iron needs. Also there's lots more iron and coal in the rocky desert here, which I use with the solid steel ingot recipe for slightly improved efficiency. The caterium from the western slopes is delivered here with an adorable little push-pull train. Obviously this is not the only branch. In the blue crater we have Ueckermünde, delivering a huge amount of plastic using the alternate recipes for heavy oil residue and recycled plastic. And also we get some rubber and some nitrogen gas from here. In the ocean of the Dune Desert we have Lubmin, which turns ludicrous amounts of copper ore from the desert canyons into even more ludicrous amounts of copper ingots using the abundant water, the pure copper ingot recipe, and this beautiful array of 156 refineries. And if that's not refined enough for your taste, please direct your attention to this turbofuel production line over here. Locally sourced coal and sulfur are combined with imported crude oil to provide the bulk of the power that my factories need, a full 25 gigawatts. Lubmin is where I think my factory design peaked. It's not the most complicated setup, but definitely the cleanest factory floor, with wiring coming down from the ceiling and full lighting. In the Dune Desert there's also Wiek, my smallest branch factory specifically for bauxite processing. It may seem like a weird choice to put this here with no bauxite anywhere in sight, but this place has everything else that I need, from quartz for the aluminum smelting to sulfur for battery production. Conveniently there are some bauxite nodes right below my megafactory, so I have trains coming here to drop off the bauxite and pick up the aluminum ingots and batteries for the return trip. And speaking of which, here's the main event. The biggest one of them all, Anklam, also known as the megafactory. This is where I assembled all the project parts for the final space elevator shipment, and it also produces enough of every intermediate part to constantly refill my stock at home. Everything else is in service of this hulking beast of a building. Resources go in at the very bottom, they feed through each level, and the outputs emerge at the top, ready to be shipped to home base. This is actually where roundabouts failed me. The train lines around this building are so busy that deadlocks would happen every few hours. My solution was to place the entire factory in one gigantic roundabout, measuring at about 2 kilometers in circumference. And as you can see, there's always a train in the roundabout at every hour of the day. And as if that was not enough circular motion yet, let's use this spiral to reach a parking spot. Like before, the green station is designated for my personal train. Starting from the bottom, we have platforms for all the incoming trains, connecting to buffer storages. After some bobbing and weaving, the inputs arrive on this set of 26 conveyor lifts and 2 pipelines that will stay with us until the very top. On each level, we have machines taking some of these inputs and producing some new outputs from them. The first level is obviously rather tame, with iron plates, iron rods, copper sheets and such. Definitely the most machines by raw count here, but they're all constructors. Each level of machines has a level of wiring above it. Here we grab the inputs that we need from the lifts and put the outputs back on the lifts wherever a free spot has opened up. And so it continues. Level 2 has the first few assemblers for L-clad sheets, encased industrial beams and such. Level 3 is mostly assemblers, except for some constructors that make screws. Screws and quick wires are the 2 things that I only construct immediately before consuming them, otherwise my array of 26 lifts definitely would not have sufficed. Level 4 is the first manufacturers, for heavy modular frames, computers and high-speed connectors, and that's how it continues to ever more advanced components. On the higher levels, the more advanced items tend to need bigger machines, but I also need way fewer of those machines, so I shrunk the floor space for level 5 and above. That is why we have space in the back there to park our train. Level 6, more of the same. And finally on level 7 we produced the final project parts. I'd always planned to put these out in the open as a kind of centerpiece, but they did not end up very visible because of just how tall the entire thing ended up. These machines are enough to produce all the parts for the final space elevator shipment in exactly 1000 minutes, slightly under 17 hours, but of course it did take longer than that because I had to figure out all the mistakes that I made in my belting and wiring. That was definitely the most tedious part of the project. Well, either that, or that one evening when I went back to the technically finished factory and added 7,454 wall and window pieces to make it look presentable. I will definitely spend some more time staring at all my factory's glorious products, and in the meantime I would like to thank you for watching. This video has been a first for me. I only recently got into publishing my stream VODs from Twitch onto YouTube, and this is my first foray into video editing. If you have any suggestions how I can improve, please let me know in the comments. And if this does well, maybe see you next time.